Hello everyone, welcome back to another video game review. So just this week, Persona 5 Royal dropped on PC. And as someone whose favorite video game genre is JRPGs, and as someone who very much enjoyed Persona 4 Golden on PC, buying this game once it came out on Steam was but a no-brainer for me. And I was super stoked to play Persona 5 as it's a game that I've been recommended to play so many times by both people online and in real life. Like, people recommended this game and dubbed it as a masterpiece so much 4 years ago that I almost felt pressured to buy a PlayStation console and play it at the time. Fortunately for me, I did not purchase a PlayStation because, good god, after investing hours into Persona 5, this may be the most overshilled game I've ever played, and I'm baffled that it's held in such high regard. I think the core issue for any PC gamer such as myself is that we just hold a higher standards, higher expectations for gaming than console gamers. Like, for me personally, I have just been increasingly less impressed by video games after playing Elden Ring. Elden Ring set a new standard for gaming that unfortunately Persona 5 Royal just doesn't even get close to meeting. So what exactly is Persona 5, you might ask? Well, it's basically a lazy ripoff of Pokemon, but with a generic anime visual novel flung alongside it. Basically, the gameplay involves aimlessly running around the map, collecting demons called personas that are an equivalent, uglier version of Pokemon. And here lies the first issue I have with this game. This game's version of Pokemon you collect are just generic demon-looking things whose names are weird tongue twisters that are forgettable. So you don't get any joy out of collecting them, which is supposed to be a good portion of fun for these sorts of games. Really, the only cool persona I've encountered has been Jack Frost, who works because his name and design are both memorable, but majority of the personas are boring and forgettable. If you're disagreeing with me on this, then you're just wrong, and I invite you to indulge me in a quick experiment. Get out a pen and paper, pause this video, and at the top of your head, no googling allowed, draw these 3 popular personas: Beelzebub, Vishnu, and Izanagi. Have a go at it, I'll give you 2 minutes. Alright, time's up, now do the same thing but with these 3 popular Pokemon: Pikachu, Gengar, and Charizard. Okay, so I already know the outcome of this experiment for anyone who did do it, as I had a couple people I know online and in real life indulge me on this who had hundreds of hours in Persona 5, and most of them barely or never play Pokemon. Yet, all of the results greatly showed that Pokemon are much more memorable than Personas. In fact, not a single person drew anything close to resembling any of the 3 Personas I gave them. And just as a bonus test, do you remember what 3 personas I listed literally 30 seconds ago? Do you remember the 3 Pokemon I listed? That's what I thought. Again, the only persona I like is my Jack Frost. Unfortunately, Persona 5's gameplay is designed in such a way that you cannot even use the personas you like. Instead, you constantly have to switch up personas you equip to counter the enemies, and oftentimes you don't even know what counters the enemy until you die to them. So a lot of the game is just this frustrating trial by error where you keep playing a guessing game on what persona you need to equip to win a battle, and eventually, after giving multiple personas a go, you will randomly get it right and win the battle. And sure, winning the battles after multiple failures is satisfying, but not in the right way. Like the other day, I was putting together IKEA furniture, and the way I go about it, since the instructions never make sense to me, is I try every bolt size until one of them connects the piece. And when I do get the correct bolt size after numerous tries, I am satisfied, but not because I'm having fun, but because I'm glad I'm one piece of furniture connection closer to being done with that painfully boring chore and free to play video games. And yet when I play Persona 5, I precisely get that feeling replicated in its battle system. Actually, Persona 5 is worse because oftentimes you die far into a level and have to restart from the beginning again, fighting numerous enemies you previously fought instead of the one you just lost to. At least when I was putting together my new bookshelf the other day, the whole shelf didn't collapse if I just put on one piece incorrectly. And to add to the pain, the turn-based battles in this game are frustratingly slow. Not only do you have to control your main character, but you also have to select actions for your 3 teammate characters, who for some reason can't think for themselves. And then after slowly selecting the moves for all the characters, which by the way is hella annoying to control on PC as you have to accurately click the correct skill with your mouse pointer, but the UI containers are so thin that I would accidentally click the wrong skill oftentimes, and there's no way to undo this mistake. The controls in this game are just terrible. There's like so many buttons you have to press, and it's so frustrating when you accidentally click the wrong one, which will happen a lot. Anyways, after you do input your turn, you're then greeted by the enemy, which have some of the most dick rip inducing mechanics I've ever experienced in a video game. Like, one enemy I fought didn't even attack me, but just kept putting up this stupid wall thing that made all my attacks on it reflect and hit me instead. So after killing myself through multiple of my Persona rosters and having nothing work, I eventually figured out that I can just poison this enemy and wait for 40-ish turns for it to die. The thing is, this would take about 10 minutes per fight, and there were multiple of this type of enemy in the part of the game I was in. Very annoying stuff. And this other enemy, I think it was at the start of the game, it was like this ghost horse thing without its back legs. It basically kept multiplying itself, and the more I killed, the more it kept multiplying, and the battle went on for like 50 turns until it finally decided to stop multiplying. And another recent enemy at the top of my head was one that kept mass sleeping and debuffing my team's attack, making the battle go on for literally ages. What I'm saying is that a lot of the enemies in Persona 5 don't even seem to be interested in attacking you or killing you, but instead they'll just toy with you and waste your time. But the most triggering thing is when you think you have an enemy attack patterns and move pool figured out, and then just randomly, like 10% of the time, out of nowhere, they just attack you with some crazy move you've never seen before and wipe out your team. I just can't exaggerate how powerless and annoyed you'll feel when playing this game. Basically, the enemies do a bunch of nothing except things to waste your time, like spamming debuffs, but then every once in a while, seemingly on a whim, they'll decide, yeah, I'm just going to party wipe you for no reason. I constantly feel at mercy to the desires of the enemy, so even when I win a battle, it's like I know that the only reason I won was because the enemy allowed me to. It's one thing if the enemies just hit hard and kill you, but the enemies in Persona are more interested in humiliating you and shattering your ego as a gamer. Now, besides the gameplay, which I would say is about 50% of the game's content, Persona 5 is also an anime visual novel. And the story in the game is okay, I guess, though I did have some criticisms of the premise. Basically, this game is about a group of high schoolers who get the ability to steal people's hearts by entering a parallel world which changes their victims' behavior in real life. And the group call themselves the Phantom Thieves because they steal people's heart, but the thing is, not a single time thus far have I seen them steal jack shit. Instead, every time you're caught trying to steal the victim's heart, and then you end up having to do a boss battle anyways. They're basically thieves in the same way that characters in Naruto are ninjas. Things are just set up to be all edgy and cool, but then play out like a shonen anime. But besides the story being very cliche in anime, I still prefer reading the visual novel portion to actually playing the game. Unfortunately, whenever you do get to any good parts and cliffhangers in the story, you are immediately forced into doing hours of gameplay to progress further. This greatly annoyed me about the game. It's like if you were enjoying reading a book, but whenever you get to a good part in your book, you have to put the book down and vacuum your house. The thing is, Persona 5 would work a lot better just as a visual novel, and I probably would rate it above average if it was such. However, Persona 5 as a video game is something I've been woefully unimpressed by. Ultimately, if you want to watch a 6 out of 10 shonen anime but mixed with hours of scuffed Pokemon rip-off gameplay, then I can see you enjoying Persona 5. But as someone with higher standards for gaming in 2022, I would give Persona 5 a 4.7 out of 10. Not too bad, have for sure seen worse games, but also not too good.